I start most conversations with growers and or new opportunities and say, please do not tell me you're the best grower and please do not tell me you have the best genetics. I will lose my shit. Hey guys, welcome back. So this one is one that is going to probably give me a lot of heat, and I'm not saying any of this information to try and disparage seed banks, or I'm not even taking a shot at growers. I'm taking a shot at the industry and magic bean illusion that's been created around strains and specific genetics. Let's talk about something that every person should know about cannabis. There are hundreds of compounds, and when you look at these, a vast majority are called terpenes. Just think of them like essential oils found in the plant. They're also found in lots of other plants out in nature as well. And what a lot of these terpenes do is act as binding agents, so they change the effect of cannabis on the body. And when I say cannabis on the body, I want to really identify two compounds: CBD and THC. And I highly doubt there's anybody listening to this that doesn't know what the two of those are. But when they're isolated down to just the single property by themselves, relatively ineffective. Adding in those other compounds is what make them unique. Now here's my rub, and this is where I'm going to piss a lot of breeders off and probably a lot of growers, because they've sold companies and platforms and raised money around this idea that they have the best genetics. And I'm telling you guys right now, if you're an investment firm or somebody who's invested in the space and you have been sold this, we have the best genetics, I'm telling you, you bought a bag of magic beans.
Trust me, my boy. These beans will bring you food and fortune, and your mother will be proud.
And I don't mean that to be offensive, and it's not to say that those strains aren't great. They probably are great. But this idea that one strain versus the other is somehow more valuable or better is a bit of a misnomer. The type of grow, the desired effect, and the end result is vastly different based on thousands of variables. So it's no different than me telling you I make the best music in the world. Well, if I make hip-hop music and you only like country, you will not agree with me. And we have no problem understanding that. Or if I say I've got the best wine and I only make a Prosecco, then you're going to disagree because you may not even like Prosecco. So this idea that people run around in the cannabis industry saying they have the best anything is, it's frustrating. And I'm going to harp on this a lot because it's probably one of the biggest misnomers that the industry has sold to the general public. And anyone that wants to challenge me on this, I'm more than happy to have this conversation, but you should listen to this part before you do. I can get every single grower I've ever met to agree that the terpenes and different ratios of the terpenes are effectively what controls the desired effect and experience. Very few growers would deny that. The difference between good cannabis and bad cannabis is often the terpene profile, and more specifically, how that terpene profile reacts with your body. So if you've tried the same strain over and over again and had different effects, did you have a mango beforehand? Or were you on a full stomach, an empty stomach? Were there carbs? There are all these variables that contribute to that particular experience, even if it's the same strain. We don't disagree on that most of the time. Where we disagree is this idea that their strains are better than the next guy, or they're a better grower. And here's the problem. From the top of the plant to the bottom of the plant, they have different ratios of these essential oils. So common sense tells you that if the top of the plant is really high in THC and might have more concentrated levels of myrcene, but the lower portion of the plant is naturally higher in CBD, there's an inverse relationship between CBD and THC. Nobody denies that. And I'm not implying that you don't know this or trying to be rude. I'm trying to be blunt and get this across so that this can finally be put to bed. Almost without fail, they say, no, I get that, but we really do have the best strains, right, Ted? That's happened, and I apologize. There's a couple of you watching this who have said that very statement to me, but this is important that you get this. If the plant doesn't have the same profile from the top of the plant to the bottom of the plant, you effectively have different experiences based on where you pull the cannabis from the plant. Now, I'm not saying that strains aren't valuable. It's like brothers and sisters. You might have some that are tall and some are short, but they're going to share a lot of characteristics. And knowing those characteristics is what helps you build great gardens. When you know the general profile, They fit into the planning and strategizing of how you utilize those to best meet your goals, but it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. So, moving forward and getting back to the terpenes, if the plant doesn't have the same distribution of essential oils, terpenes, and cannabinoids, then you don't have the same experience at the top that you have at the bottom. But there's an even bigger variable. Well, there's thousands of variables, but there's another major variable to factor in as well. When you take down, the plant has a drastic effect on how much of that resin gets poured out of the plant, making a great product. The problem is not everything is under duress for the same amount of time. If you got 1,000 plants, well, the last plant, although it's the exact same strain, cloned from the exact same mother, grown with the same nutrients under the same environmental conditions, is not the same plant because the terpene profile has changed. Now, what blows my mind is that very intelligent growers will sit down with you, tell you they've got the best strains. They will tell you all about their knowledge of terpenes and the terpene profiles. No one disagrees that there's wild variations in concentration of these different terpenes and profiles from top to bottom of the plant. They'll also agree that from front to back, when you harvest, you get a sliding scale of experience as you move through the harvest. And then, of course, that all gets jumbled into 5-pound lots, 10-pound lots, and then sent out for testing where only a couple of grams are tested. So the customer's left to buy products based off of a strain name and a test result, both of which are about as arbitrary as it gets. So what I urge people to do is find strains that they like from brands that they trust and continue to consume those products. But it's a big reason why my company focuses on edibles, oils, and extractions, because we're able to replicate the same experience for long periods of time. And this is where the analogy of most of the industry playing tic-tac-toe and checkers while we're playing chess comes into play. I don't see a lot of value in creating strain loyalty, because you can create Girl Scout cookies, cross with Gorilla Glue number 4 and create this mega strain that everybody loves. Any grower can go into the system and rename a strain. The vast differences between when and how you harvest and how the plant is grown makes it such a massive difference on the profile that I really don't believe in strains. And I know it's sacrilege. I know that I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I really just refuse to buy into that game. I think you have strains so you have a catalog and a profile, much like I discussed with family members. If you've got two parents that are over 6'5", the likelihood that their kids are going to be tall is very, very high. But also the likelihood that they're going to be fast is probably much lower. So you use those profiles to create a genetic profile and establish what your gardening practices are going to be. But you need years and years of data from those same strains to give you the information that you really need. And that is scaling this on a massive level, on a global level. Where and how much of these particular strains will I be growing and what products will they turn into is more important than what strain you start with. So the information that you gather year over year from these strains is important. And guys, this idea that folks, I do not want to hear one more person tell me that in 1985 he snuck into the UW laboratory and pulled out the strain that the university was illegally testing. He got out one small leaf and was able to clone it, and now this UW purple is actually, I'm the guy that founded that. I don't know, DJ Short didn't sleep on your couch in 1985 and owe you, $500 and give you his last magic bean to one of his strains. And if he did, save that story for somebody else. It doesn't matter to me. That plant has genetically drifted so far from the original strain that story doesn't even make sense or mean anything to me as a large-scale cultivator. What I want is thousands of strains. I want seed stock of those. I want to have environmentally controlled elements at every stage of the game so that any subtle changes I make to the production of that cannabis plant, we know what the variables are. The reaction to changing variables and the increase or decrease in productivity is the only thing that matters to me. Going out and buying this magic strain or finding this guy who had one clone, that's why your business is such a massive empire and why we should be partnering or investing, is a story I just cannot wait to die. I just can't wait for those days to go away. Everybody's grower is the best grower. Everybody's brother is somebody I gotta meet because he can get these strains. Gardens have been predominantly grown in people's basements and closets. These strains are born out of that era. It's time to go out, take the strains you have, and start doing research. Get as wide a variety of strains as you can get your hands on, but there isn't one that's your fix-all that's going to be the hallmark of your industry. And I'm telling you, if you think you have some proprietary strain, send me the name of it, and I'll send you a copy of a manifest that has one going out to your biggest competitor the next morning. And there's nothing you can do about it. So build brands around genetics all you want. It's going to get replicated and replaced. Build your brand and your company into a household name. Make sure that I can rely on the products that you're making, and I will always be a loyal customer. But this idea that genetics in and of themselves are a hallmark of the industry is a waste of all of our time. Please, stop the narrative. If you're a brokerage firm and you're sitting at a boardroom table with a group that tries to present you with the everlasting value of their strains and the amount of different varieties that they have, I want you to stop right there and ask them, can you get documented proof year over year of the changes that have been made to that environment and what improvements or fallbacks have they experienced based on the strains that they claim are so phenomenal? The answer more often than not is that you're not going to get one. And if you do, it's going to be a canned response that kind of is going to be a bit of a, my guys know how to do what they know how to do. Trust me, those days are gone. No more should people be falling for that than they do the magic bean theory. It just doesn't make any sense. So please, educate yourself, reach out to me directly, put a comment down below. I don't care what you have to do. This is a narrative I've got to put an end to, and it's a personal mission of mine to educate not just our investors, but investors in the industry, and to educate the industry to stop playing games with moving targets. Lastly, there are companies out there. Landrace strains are really interesting. They are indigenous to the area that they're coming from. The problem is, if you go to Pakistan and you find landrace strains and bring them back to an environmentally controlled platform, that strain is not going to grow like it did out in the wild. And quite frankly, what you see out in the wild is more often than not something you want. Like, look at this. Look at this. This is from the High Times strains of the year about 2 decades ago. You couldn't get anyone to even smoke any of this cannabis, never mind pay you for it. And these were the strains of the year. These are the same strains that people are claiming to have the original genetics to. There's been so much crossbreeding and so much evolution of cannabis. I think we're at a point now where we need to spend less time manipulating the genetics and more time maximizing the gardens to use what we have available to us. Now, that's not to say that breeders and seed banks and folks that are focusing on that are wasting their time, because there's absolutely value in that. But it isn't Joe and Rick in their basement in Colorado. I'm sorry, that's not the place for it. There's too many variables that are outside of their control to even put any defining factors on their findings. So please, guys, just put an end to the narrative. Help me with this. Sorry if that seems aggressive. I'm just telling you, this is another one of those questions that I deal with every single day. Hey guys, one more thing. I'm going to continue to do these on a regular basis, and I know a big part of my job is to keep you up to date with the financials and the ongoing events inside of our own business, which of course will be a big part of the everyday correspondence through lots of different outlets. But this has actually proven to be one of the most effective resources for us going forward. It's a great way to educate investors. It demonstrates confidence in our ability. Most of the time, we are going to find ourselves in active dialogue after these conversations, and it helps drive the narrative, it helps educate the general public, and it puts us in a position of authority within the industry, which is really important. So if you're watching this video as a shareholder of my company, then I'm glad you're here. I'm excited to have you as part of this, and we appreciate everything you're doing out there, helping us get these messages out. We cannot advertise these posts, so this is all done based on our sharing. And the last video had 7,200 impressions made because it was shared across a few different platforms. So even if the view counts seem relatively low here on YouTube, don't forget that it's being played on multiple other platforms and being shared across a wide audience. So we really are making a difference with these videos, and it's already brought up some new opportunities for us. So I thank everybody for watching, and if there's any information in here that you think is valuable, please share it as often as you feel comfortable. Like, subscribe, follow, do all the things, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video. Take care, guys.